Breaking news this morning. Look out below. Take a look at U.S. stock futures. All markets on edge and dropping. These futures just took a notable turn downward again on the heels of the worst day Wall Street has seen in 5 years. Now, right now, futures aren't quite as bad as yesterday, almost as bad, but they're still not looking good at all. And they just dropped more on the news that China is striking back. Retaliatory tariffs, big ones.
Let's dig more into the breaking news that John was talking about at the top. China is now hitting back, retaliating against the Trump tariffs, announcing this morning it is now slapping a reciprocal 34% tariff on all U.S. goods. With stock futures, I mean, this is not looking good. The next piece of data that investors and beyond are also going to be looking at this morning is the March jobs report. It comes out next hour. To date, the labor data has painted a picture of a jobs market that's cooling but not contracting. Is that all about to change? CNN's Matt Egan is here. Let's start with this breaking news, though, which is China now says 34%.
Yeah, look, that is why we're seeing more mayhem in financial markets around the world. Markets are going boom, but they're going boom down. Look at this, Dow futures off by almost 3%. This signals another 1,200-point loss at the opening bell. That's on top of yesterday's 1,700-point loss. Steeper losses for the NASDAQ futures down 3%. So what happened was futures were down a bit, and then China retaliated. They came back and they say they're putting a 34% tariff on goods that are made in the United States. It's not shocking to see China fire back.
Right.
But this is an escalation that investors, of course, did not want to see because retaliation, it can kill jobs here in the United States. It can slow economic growth. And it could just fan more retaliation. You could get into this escalatory cycle that is almost impossible to get out of. One other big development that happened last night is JP Morgan came out with a new recession warning. They previously said that they thought there's a 40% chance of a recession in the US and in the world economy. They've just upped that to 60%, citing specifically the tariffs. And of course, this is one of the reasons why we've seen markets take such a hit in recent days. But another recession warning here.
How bad was yesterday?
Yeah, it was so bad that some people on Wall Street have said instead of calling it Liberation Day, they're calling it Obliteration Day. It was the worst day for U.S. stocks since COVID. We saw the S&P 500 close at a 7-month low. We saw oil prices fall very sharply. Tech stocks get clobbered. Bond yields went down because investors piled into the safety of ultra-safe government debt. One of the only things that went up on the day was fear. We saw the VIX volatility index go straight up. One of the stocks that got hit the hardest was Apple. Apple's really kind of at the epicenter here, right? It's the world's most valuable company. Yesterday, it lost $310 billion, worst day since 2020 for Apple, and that's because they make a lot of their stuff, their iPhones and other items, they make it all overseas, and those products are now facing steep tariffs. And again, now you have China retaliating.
U.S. stock futures turning sharply downward, and they keep getting worse, I have to say. This on the heels of the news released just a short time ago that China is imposing 34% tariffs on all imports from the United States starting on April 10th. This, of course, in response to President Trump's new tariffs. This is retaliation. This is a trade war. Let's get right to CNN's Mark Stewart, who is in Beijing with all the news on this. Mark, you actually broke this the moment it happened. What can you tell us about it?
John, much anticipated. And as you said, if this is a trade war, this is a very big hit from China. 2 points I want to make. Number one, even though these tariffs are very broad, impacting all imports, it will really hurt American farmers and the U.S. agriculture industry the hardest. China imports a lot of soybeans of all products from the United States. It's been a top customer. With these additional tariffs, the price will skyrocket. It will force China's farmers, as well as food producers, to go somewhere else to buy soybeans, therefore hurting the United States. In addition, China has also put some restrictions on rare minerals that are used to make everyday household products, also electronics. that could impact the American effort to beef up more domestic manufacturing and production. The other point to make, the fact this is happening on a Friday night at the start of a very important holiday weekend says a lot. Beijing certainly could have waited until Monday, but this is making a very big statement, especially within China, to the domestic population. It's also coming at a time when China is really trying to establish itself as a stable, rational force in the world. In fact, there was a Chinese official just recently in Europe, meeting with officials in Hungary, releasing a statement saying that China would be willing to have some kind of relationship with the United States to fight against protectionism, to fight against bullying. Again, John, the fact this is happening on a Friday night really underscores the fact that China is serious about this. Whether or not this leads to a discussion between Xi Jinping and President Trump at the negotiating table remains to be seen. But this shows just how high the stakes are in this back and forth between these economic superpowers.
Yeah, it shows how serious China is, and what we see in futures shows how little investors like it. A bad day yesterday, getting even worse today. Mark Stewart in Beijing, thank you so much for that update. Sarah.
All right, joining me now, Democratic Congressman Josh Gottheimer, a member of the House Intelligence Committee, and he's running for governor in New Jersey. He's also the ranking member of the National Security Agency and Cyber Subcommittee, which oversees the NSA. We will get to your expertise there in 1 second. I do want to ask you about this breaking news. The trade war is officially on. China is hitting back, saying it is imposing a 34% tariff to match the U.S. tariffs that Donald Trump imposed. What do you say to Americans now that we are officially in this big trade war?
As you point out, the trade war has begun, and it will have a huge and direct impact on American families, right? I mean, this is not one of these things that is a threat. Now it's real. And you're talking about a $3,800 a year hit on families from these across the board tariffs. And that's just not on what they're going to pay for everything from cheese to coffee to cars to clothing, but it's also it's already affecting, as we saw with the markets, affecting their savings, right? Their retirement accounts, a huge hit on those. So at a time when we're trying to get costs down, it's what I focus on every day, like getting costs and taxes lower. This is actually going to, and President Trump, who ran on actually making life more affordable, this is going to do just the opposite, right? It's going to make their lives more expensive. And it's why a few of us are put up a discharge petition next week to try to get rid of the Canadian tariffs that are in place, but also to demand from President Trump, what are you doing what's this chaos all about? You got to actually have a strategy, not just go out there and intentionally cause a trade war.
I want to talk to you about what President Trump and Vice President Vance has said. We have just had, as you just mentioned, one of the worst days for stock markets since March of 2020, which was, of course, the month the entire country began shutting down because of COVID-19. The tariffs show that the Dow closed down about 4%, the NASDAQ 6%, but the president and vice president say, don't worry, it's all going to be okay. Take a listen.
I think it's going very well. It was an operation like when a patient gets operated on. The markets are going to boom, the stock is going to boom, the country is going to boom.
We're going to have a booming stock market for a long time.
Do you think that President Trump and Vice President Vance are right, that in the long run, this will bring back jobs and manufacturing to the U.S., but it will hurt just for a bit?
I mean, I don't know. All you have to do is look at the economists who were, the Fed chair called this tariff inflation. Everyone from Goldman Sachs, Moody's calling it a recession, J.P. Morgan Chase saying it's going to cause a recession. And there's already been layoffs announced in the United States because of these tariffs. So I don't know what kind of strategy it is to intentionally cause a recession, cause layoffs here at home, and hurt families directly with this new tax. So I don't know if long term, but there's not, the economists I talk to say there's no long term light on this situation. Right now, there's a lot of darkness for a lot of Americans, and we're seeing it literally in real time. And listen, I'm just concerned about people being able to pay their bills and be able to afford life. And this is going to be a huge tax on hardworking families at a time where we got to try to do everything we can to make life more affordable for them. And that's of course, what I've been focused on for years and continue to be focused on. How do we get costs down, not intentionally ruin their savings and their retirement accounts and cause price hikes across our country?